What's going on YouTube? It's James with DadLord343, and today we're going to be talking about the cheapest Glock you'll ever hear of, the $200 Glock 17 Gen 2. All right, everyone. So like I said, we're going to get into this Glock 17 that I got for such a cheap price, and I'll tell you how I got it, what's wrong with it, basically why it was so cheap. And unfortunately, I would love to tell you how you can get your own, but I honestly do not think that this deal will ever come back again, especially with the announcement of the Glock V series and the discontinuation of every single Glock handgun, basically under the sun, except for I believe the 43X, 48, I think maybe the regular 43. I'm not 100% sure on it. But yeah, let's get into it. So essentially, I was just scrolling through my email one day. I forget the exact date. I'll put it up here. I'll put the picture up of when I saw the email specifically, but I saw an email. It said Glock 17 for $199.99. I was like, what? What's going on? You know, it's a Gen 2. Probably the Gen 2 is going to be one of the closest that you'll get to the Gen 1. From my understanding, um, the Gen 2s, they're pretty close to the Gen 1. It's just the only difference is that this little stippling on the back is different. Besides that, they are pretty much identical to the Gen 1s from my understanding. I'm sure there's some other minute differences, but you can see it says Austria 17. There's no generations. So from my understanding that this was kind of just like an update. Like there was no, they weren't planning on doing, you know, Glock Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3, all that stuff. Basically the Gen 2s came out, they were an update to the Gen 1s. So essentially this is pretty dang close to the Gen 1, but I don't know if any of you can tell exactly what's wrong with this handgun or why it went for so cheap. If you can, go ahead, let me know now. All right, if not, we'll go ahead and get into it. So the reason it was so cheap, cheaper than a High Point or cheaper than a Taurus or cheaper than, I mean, I guess this is more expensive, $200. A High Point is right around $200. I actually looked before this video because that's what I'm gonna probably call the video is $200 Glock, cheaper than a High Point. But is this magwell right here. So the magwell was pretty much screwed up. It's got this chipping on the bottom. I guess this was a problem with the Gen 1s and the Gen 2s. And it's really kind of hard to tell. I don't know if you guys can, I mean, you can see that obviously right there. And then once you insert the mag in it, this is the mag that it came with. It says ECF on the bottom. So you can see that there's a little bit of space right there. And I'm honestly, part of me has considered cutting this down to make it accept Glock 19 mags because it is pretty close to being able to accept Glock 19 mags. Let me see if I can just pull a 19 mag out of here. Yep, here's a 19 mag right here, a 15 rounder. It's pretty close. It's not quite there, but it is pretty close. So if I were to shave some of this bottom piece off, it would essentially accept Glock 19 mags, but I don't want to do that. I like to keep it as, I guess, quote unquote, historically accurate as possible. So that's what I have right here. I believe this was a police trade-in from a correctional facility up in Michigan. I'm not 100% sure. I'll see if I can link it. It says ECF at the bottom here. I'm assuming something correctional facility on the bottom of that Glock mag. There's no other indication of it, what specifically it may be from. It does say Glock Inc. Smyrna, Georgia here, but on the slide here it says Austria Glock. So I'm not really sure. I guess Smyrna, Georgia was the place that imported it, but it was made in Austria, I'm assuming. If you know anything about it, please correct me in the comments. But yeah, I mean, this is just a Gen 2 Glock 17, ultra reliable. I mean, I've shot it a good amount, and I love it. I've loved every minute of shooting it. My only issue with it is that there's no rail on it like a Gen 3 or a Gen 4. And actually, I've got my Gen 4 Slovakian police trade-in right here. You can see I've got a little rail on the bottom. I've got a Streamlight TLR7 there. The plan is to eventually replace this with an X300 or a TLR1 and get this RMR cut to be my go-to competition shooting gun, but that has not happened yet. So currently this is what it looks like, Gen 4. So we got Gen 2 and Gen 4 Glock 17s right here. Love the Glock 17, nothing wrong with it. Fantastic weapon. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. It's a great shooting gun. It's got glow-in-the-dark night sights, aftermarket night sights on there. But like I said, it's Glock reliability. Personally, if you were going to try to get me either a brand new Taurus or a High Point or whatever in my hand, or this 30-year-old Glock 17. I mean, because I think this was carried in the 90s at some point at the correctional facility. If you're going to get this in my hand, or if I had to pick, I'm taking this thing all day, man. I'm not gonna risk my life over a Taurus or anything like that. I'm gonna be taking the Glock 17. There's no doubt about it. I mean, it's just Glock reliability. I mean, there's a reason that every single law enforcement agency has carried these, militaries all around the world trust their lives to these. Yeah, I mean, it's just really a fantastic pistol. I actually loaned this out to my brother to use in a bowling pin shooting competition at one point because he's a little younger. He's not 21 yet, so he can't own a handgun. But I let him borrow this for the bowling pin shoot, and he did okay. He beat a couple of people actually. And I told him, I was like, look, man, this is probably the oldest gun out of anybody here. And actually, he's probably one of the youngest competitors. So I was like, you're probably the youngest competitor here using the oldest gun out of everybody else. So, I mean, he held his own. I mean, he's not very good. He doesn't shoot a whole lot. He's in college. He's a younger college student. So he doesn't have a whole lot of time and money to go to the range, but he'll go whenever I can get him out there. But yeah, like I said, the grip is slightly different than a Gen 1, but this is before the Gen 1 and the Gen 2s did not introduce the finger grooves. The finger grooves came out with the Gen 3s. And like I said, this is not a Gen 3, this is a Gen 4. So, but it's got the finger grooves. And then obviously with Gen 5, we went back to the kind of straight edge. So, I mean, let me know what you like down below if you prefer the finger grooves or just the straight. I don't know. I kind of like both of them. The texturing on the Gen 4 is definitely a lot better. It grips your hand a lot better than this. Really, this is really a smooth kind of texturing. And I think the texturing on the back of the Gen 1s specifically is a little bit different back here, like I said. And really, from my understanding, there's not a whole lot of differences between the Gen 2 and the Gen 1 besides that stippling on the back. So that's how you can tell the difference between them. I think that Glock, they came out with the P80 or something like that at one point, the anniversary Gen 1 clone, pretty much. But and that was just a one-to-one, basically a new make of a Gen 1 Glock, no rail, just like this one. But this is pretty dang close to a Gen 1 Glock. But like I said, Classic Firearms had them for $200. I snagged one up as soon as I saw that. I kind of wish I bought two or three, but the issue is if you buy two or three, the ATF may come to your door and say, "Hey, can you show me those two or three handguns that you have? I want to make sure that you're not selling them." You know, and I really don't want to get a knock on the door with the ATF. I have a new family. Um, I love the government totally. They've never done anything wrong. Um, anyway, but yeah, I mean, this is my Gen 2 Glock 17. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. The only things I would change about it is obviously a rail for the light, but that obviously back in the 90s was not a valid concern that they had. Really, I guess putting lights on rails. I guess they kind of do the flashlight in one hand and Glock in the other hand. But yeah, I mean it's a good little gun. Yeah, this says oh, it's actually funny too on here. It says restricted to law enforcement, military use only. So this is obviously from the ban era. So this was made probably sometime, or this was issued sometime in the 90s. Yeah, we've got Glock, Smyrna, Georgia. Oh, 9/13/94. So this came out September of 94 was, I guess, when this gun was issued. ECF, some sort of correctional institute, I believe in Michigan. I'll see if I can find that and link it above. If not, I'm not super worried about it. But yeah, I mean, it's a great shooting handgun. If you ever see a Gen 2 Glock 17 or any Glock come up for $200, you need to buy it right then. I've got a buddy, his coworker actually still asks him to this day is, "Hey man, when are those $200 Glock 17s going to come back out again? You know, like I'd want to get one." I think he's asked him several times. I'm like, man, that ship has sailed. This was pretty much a once in a lifetime opportunity. So you gotta jump on it. And really, how I can recommend how you can find good deals like this is sign up for gun companies' websites. I mean, I'm signed up for Palmetto State Armory, Classic Firearms, Atlantic Firearms, Arms of America. Um, I've got a few other websites that I'm signed up for that I get all their deals. And yes, it is very annoying, but I mean, to me personally, the Palmetto State Armory email is one of the highlights of me looking at my email for the day. They normally have some cool stuff in there, but Classic Firearms, most of the time it's not super great, but sometimes you see like a great deal like this come up and you're like, I mean, it makes it worth it. You know, all the hundreds and hundreds of emails that they sent me, I've never bought anything except for this. But I mean, yeah, I mean, $200 Glock, I mean, any sort of Glock for $200, you really are not going to beat it. in terms of reliability. Exactly. I mean, it's a used one. It's got some scratches, some dents on it, but I mean, I just love it. I like the history behind it. I mean, I think it's a great handgun. This is probably as close to a Gen 1 as I'll ever get to, because I mean, I'm not going to go out and spend thousands and thousands of dollars just to get an original Gen 1 Glock 17. From my understanding, the Gen 1s were mainly Glock 17s. I think they made some 19s in Gen 1. I don't know about the other calibers, but from my understanding, I think the Gen 2s is when they started making, like the 40 S&W, the 45, and a few other calibers. But yeah, so this is a Gen 2 17 9x19. Really cannot complain about it. It's a fantastic gun. Like I said, if you ever see any sort of Glock for $200, I would highly recommend you snatching it up as soon as possible. But yeah, but that's all I've got on this Gen 2 Glock 17 that's cheaper than a High Point. Let me know down in the comments what you would pick, if you'd pick a High Point, a Taurus, or for $200, what you think the best handgun would be. I think this is pretty hard to beat for a $200 handgun. I really cannot think of anything that could beat it. You can even get a little, if this is your only handgun, you can get a light rail and put it on there. It's very bulky. I don't know if it'll work with any holsters or anything like that, but you can get a rail and put a light here on it if this is your only handgun that you can afford, and you want to put a light on it. But like I said, I don't know how it would work with holster compatibility. I guess you could play with it and kind of figure it out. But thank God I have options. I've got this other 17 that I plan to make my main competition rig, for being on the range and other shooting competitions and things like that. And I've got my Glock 19 that I've done a video on. That was my bread and butter forever. And then I've got a Glock 26 as well, which is my new concealed carry. So yeah, but anyway, just let me know what y'all think about it. I appreciate you watching. Thank you so much.